Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation today. Today, the work is a collaboration with Alibaba Group and Indiana University Bloomington. The title of this paper is Behavior-Based Dynamic Summarization on Product Aspects while Reinforcement Neighbor Selection. So the overall structure of this presentation will be outlined as below. So first of all, I will introduce the intuition of this work and detailed instruction method will be introduced in the next section. And also I will explain a bunch of the relevant experiment analysis and point out some future work. So let's take a look at the introduction. So first of all, the importance of dynamic summarization comes to two parts. First one, it indicates a product's dynamic aspect sentiment changes. And second, it depicts the changes into readable context for easier interpretation. However, current approaches are still relying on product reviews, which are text-to-text generation, basically. But in the real production scenario, there are always lack of instant reviews for dynamic summarization. Only few of the products can obtain enough reviews to generate their summarization. Therefore, in this paper, we use sufficient user behaviors instead of the sparse reviews to generate the product summarizations. Let's use the following toy example to see the intuition of behavior-based dynamic summarization. So before a sales event, the users who browse the expensive red phones will also browse the blue phones. So the blue phones summarization will be more like a high-end expensive phone. However, after the sales event, the users who browsed the cheaper green phones will also check out the blue phone. So the blue phone's summarization will change to a cheaper acceptable phone. And by taking care of the user behaviors, it can capture this summarization changes immediately. However, it may take a few days or even more time to reflect this change in terms of the product reviews. And in the next section, we will depict the method in detail. It contains two parts. The first part, I will introduce the data prerequisites, which basically explains the model input and output. And the second part, I will explain my proposed behavior-based dynamic summarization model. It contains two submodules. The first module is a dynamic product behavior representation. And after we learn the product behavior representations, there is a multitask learning include a process including two tasks. The first task is a neighbor product selection task, and the second task is a summarization generation task. These two tasks are trained together and benefit with each other. Let's take a look at the data prerequisite first. It requires four types of the data to be pre-calculated in advance for either model input or predict label. First is the product sentiment distribution, which is used for pre-training in task 1. The second is the product descriptive phrases. It's a part of the input for task 2. And the review sentimental phrases is also another part of the input for task 2. Both of those phrases are extracted using some toolkits within the Alibaba. And the last part is the seed products. Those products need to be with a sufficient amount of the reviews and which are we selected as a candidate neighbor products in task 1. In this slide, we take a look at how our model is proposed, which is shown in the figure below. As our model is a dynamic model, we only explain how it's trained in a single time slice. So the model contains 3 modules. The first one is dynamic product behavior representation, and the rest 2 modules are the 2 tasks we'll jointly train in the later. And to generate the product behavior representation in the first time slice, we use a probabilistic matrix factorization on top of the user product behavior matrix. And in the following time slice, we keep the user vector formed because we assume that user will have a stable preference, shopping preference in a relatively longer time period. And then we use a least square approximation to estimate the product behavior representation in the current time period. After that, the product vectors associated with product category will be used as an input to estimate the product aspect sentiment distribution. This the module for the sentiment prediction pre-training is pre-calculated and optimized through a set of CNN and MLP layers, and it offers a sentiment reward for the neighbor product selection. The neighbor product selection is a standard reinforcement learning approach, and the reward contains a sentiment reward which measures how sentiment similar between the target product and candidate seed product. And the semantic reward comes to the generated summarization, and the similarity between is to the seed products profiles to measure the semantic similarity. And in the end, these two rewards will update the selection policy to finally generate the best neighbor products from the seed products. And the selected neighbor products sentimental phrases plus the target products descriptive phrases will be used as the input in the task 2 to generate the summarizations. And the model is a typical sequence-to-sequence model with the encoder is a bidirectional LSTM and the decoder is a one-layer LSTM. We also add attention to ensure a better results. Let's take a look at the experiments. So in the experiments, I will explain the dataset and a set of the experiments applied, such as automatic and human evaluation, dynamic performance, input component evaluation, and a case study. So first of all, let's take a look at the dataset used in this paper. We use Alibaba dataset and collect the user behavior and product review during April 12th until July 10th in 2018. And the first week's data helps to generate user consistent shopping preference. Rest data are split into 5 consecutive time periods with 4 types of the prepared information. So, which includes the multi-tab user behavior. We select 3 types of behavior here, including the click, add cart, and purchase behavior. We also identify the product categories and pre-calculate the product aspect sentiment distribution. So in this paper, we focus on 4 aspects, including the quality, cost, performance ratio, fitness, and material. We also have the ground truth summarization as to evaluate and training. In total, there are over 100,000 products, 50,000 users, and 100 million multi-tab behaviors in total. So to evaluate our model performance, we compare it with 7 different approaches. So these approaches are all related to neighbor product selection, as our model, the innovation of our model is mostly focused on the neighbor product selection. And those baseline models use the same sequence-to-sequence model for summarization generation after they select the neighbor products. And we define 2 types of the evaluation metrics. One is from the automatic metrics, including the ROG and the material. And another type of the evaluation metrics is human metrics. We defined 2 metrics, including a winning time rate and a winning count rate. From the evaluation result, we can see that our model is significantly beats the rest of the baselines here. After that, we also see that the dynamic performance between our model and all the baselines. We select the 3 best baselines and plot their model performances across all 5 time periods. We can see that our model still significantly beats all the rest 3 baselines in all the metrics across all the time periods. We also take a look at the input components to see whether all the components are useful or not. There are 3 types of the model input in our proposed model. We remove each input component to check whether the model performance drop and how much they drop. And after removing the user behaviors, it drops significantly. And we also have a case study to see whether our model is able to identify and track the summarization changes in time. And we can see compared to ground truth, a product material aspect is changed from positive to negative, and our model can capture this change dynamically and in time and generate different summarizations in different time periods. There are a set of the future works for us to do. The first one is we can integrate all separated segments into the main model to achieve joint training. And we'll also put more focus on exploring the influence of summarization generation task. And that's all my presentation. Thanks.